When you are comparing food sensitivity tests, there are two main things that you want to look for. So one is, what markers are they testing for? And two, what do they tell you to do with those test results? Most food sensitivity tests are testing for antibodies, such as IgG or IgA. Now, when we test for antibodies, we cannot be certain that an inflammatory reaction is going to take place because antibodies to food often are just doing their job by taking out the trash, not causing inflammation at all. And we want to know if they're causing inflammation because that inflammation is what's leading to the symptoms, leading you to test for food sensitivities in the first place. The other thing they can test for is the release of mediators. Now, why we want to test for this is because right before an inflammatory reaction to a food takes place, there will always be a release of mediators from a white blood cell. So if we test for that release of mediators, we know some inflammatory reaction took place. That inflammatory reaction could have resulted in symptoms such as brain fog, skin issues, muscle pain, joint pain, or any digestive issue. So the second thing you want to look at, what do they tell you to do with the results? Most food sensitivity tests will tell you to avoid the foods you're reactive to. Makes total sense, right? However, there are well over 10,000 foods or food chemicals in our food supply. And no test can possibly test for every single one of them. So they're only testing for like a fraction of the foods or food chemicals in our food supply. So what if they test for this fraction here? And then they say, oh, you're sensitive to chicken and broccoli and carrots, so avoid those foods. Well, what about all these other foods that they didn't test for? How do you know if you're having a reaction to one of them? Well, you don't. And that's why a different protocol is needed. So when you use the MRT or Mediator Release Test, you will likely be getting that test through a practitioner such as myself that has a certification to interpret those results and individualize them for you. So instead of like only avoid these certain foods, you will be avoiding every food except the ones that you tested non-reactive to. So when you eat those non-reactive foods, most people will see a 50 to 80% reduction in symptoms within like 10 days. So after that time period, you can slowly start adding foods back into your diet. And they'll be chosen very systematically and added in a certain order so that you most likely will not have inflammatory reactions to the foods that you add in. Eventually, you'll be adding in foods that you were quite reactive to. That is possible because your immune system has memory, which means it also forgets. So if you keep a food out for long enough and your immune system has forgotten it had a problem with it, then you can add that food back in with no inflammatory reaction. That's the really cool thing. If you would like to find out if the MRT, Mediator Release Test, is right for you, click the link and apply for my Better Digestion Blueprint program. Even if you're not having digestive symptoms, because this program works for those who are experiencing like brain fog, skin conditions, muscle or joint pain, you name it. So when you click that link and apply, we'll likely have a short conversation just to make sure the MRT is right for you and what it will look like to do it in your life right now.